Picture this. You're walking from the kitchen to the living room, a path you've walked 1,000 times, and suddenly your foot catches on nothing, just air. Your heart jumps into your throat, your arms reach out instinctively, and for one terrifying second, the floor rushes up toward you. Maybe you catch yourself on the counter. Maybe you grab the door frame just in time. And then you stand there, heart pounding, thinking, where did that come from? If that moment sounds familiar, you are absolutely not alone. Falls are one of the most common and most serious health concerns for adults over 60 in the United States. In fact, 1 in 4 Americans over the age of 65 experiences a fall every single year. And what makes that statistic so heartbreaking is that most people assume falls are just a natural, unavoidable part of getting older, something you simply accept and live around. But that assumption is wrong. And today, I want to prove it to you. Because here's what most people, including many doctors, don't talk about enough. What you eat has a profound, direct, and measurable impact on your risk of falling. The strength of your muscles, the density of your bones, the sharpness of your reflexes, the steadiness of your balance, all of it is influenced every single day by the food on your plate. And the right foods, eaten consistently, can quietly build a kind of internal armor that makes falls far less likely and far less dangerous if they do happen. In this video, we're going to walk through the most powerful fall-preventing foods that seniors can start eating right now. We'll talk about what each food does inside your body, why it matters specifically for people over 60, and how to easily work it into your daily meals without overhauling your entire diet. This is practical, real, and genuinely life-changing information. So let's get into it. Before we get to the specific foods, I want to take just a moment to explain why food matters so much when it comes to falls. Because once you understand the connection, everything else will make a lot more sense. As we age, several things happen simultaneously inside our bodies that increase fall risk. Our muscle mass naturally begins to decline, a process called sarcopenia, which reduces our ability to catch ourselves when we lose balance. Our bones become less dense, meaning that when a fall does happen, a fracture is far more likely. Our nervous system slows slightly, which affects how quickly our body responds to a balance challenge. And our inner ear, which plays a critical role in spatial awareness and steadiness, becomes less efficient. Now, here's the crucial part. Every single one of those processes is influenced by nutrition. Protein intake directly determines how much muscle your body can maintain and rebuild. Calcium and vitamin D together govern bone density. Antioxidants and anti-inflammatory nutrients protect the nervous system, and certain minerals play a direct role in muscle contraction, nerve signaling, and the physical reflexes that keep you upright when your footing shifts. This means that every meal is either working with your body to keep you stable and strong, or quietly working against it. And the good news is that making the shift toward fall prevention foods doesn't require a dramatic lifestyle change. It requires awareness and a few intentional choices. So let's talk about the first food that deserves a permanent place on your plate. The first category of foods we need to talk about is protein. And I cannot overstate how important this is for fall prevention in older adults. Protein is the raw material your body uses to build, repair, and maintain muscle tissue. And without enough of it, no amount of exercise or supplements can fully compensate. Here's what makes this especially urgent after 60. Research consistently shows that older adults need significantly more protein per pound of body weight than younger adults do, not less as many people assume. This is because as we age, our bodies become less efficient at processing and using the protein we consume. That means even if you feel like you're eating reasonably well, you may still be running a protein deficit that's slowly eroding the very muscle mass your legs depend on to keep you upright. The best sources of high-quality protein for seniors are foods like eggs, which are gentle on digestion and extraordinarily versatile. Greek yogurt, which delivers protein alongside gut-supporting probiotics. Chicken and turkey, which are lean, easy to prepare, and packed with essential amino acids. Fatty fish, like salmon and tuna, which do double duty by providing both protein and omega-3 fatty acids that reduce the muscle inflammation that contributes to weakness.
And for those who prefer plant-based options, lentils, chickpeas, edamame, and tofu are all excellent sources that work beautifully in soups, salads, and stir-fries. The practical goal here is to include a meaningful source of protein at every single meal, not just dinner. Breakfast is where most seniors fall short on protein, often reaching for toast, cereal, or fruit alone. Swapping in 2 eggs, a cup of Greek yogurt, or even a small handful of nuts alongside your morning meal can meaningfully shift your daily protein total in the right direction.
Now, alongside protein, the second food category that is absolutely essential for fall prevention is calcium-rich foods. And before you say, I already know about calcium in bones, stay with me, because there are some genuinely surprising things about how calcium works in the body after 60 that most people have never been told. Yes, calcium builds and maintains bone density, which determines how much force your bones can absorb before they fracture. But calcium does something else that most people don't realize. It plays a direct role in muscle contraction. Every single time a muscle in your leg fires, to take a step, to catch your balance, to push yourself up from a chair, calcium is involved in that signal. Low calcium doesn't just weaken your bones, it weakens the actual mechanical function of your muscles. After 60, calcium absorption from food decreases significantly. Your intestines become less efficient at pulling calcium from what you eat. And if your vitamin D levels are low, which, as we've discussed in previous videos, is extremely common in seniors, your body struggles even more to absorb and use the calcium that's available. The richest dietary sources of calcium are dairy products. Milk, cheese, and yogurt are the most concentrated and bioavailable options. But if dairy doesn't agree with you, or if you prefer variety, there are excellent alternatives. Canned salmon and sardines eaten with their soft, edible bones are surprisingly rich in calcium. Dark leafy greens like kale, bok choy, and broccoli provide meaningful amounts. Fortified plant milks, almond, oat, and soy are widely available and often contain as much calcium as cow's milk. And tofu made with calcium sulfate is another excellent plant-based option worth keeping in your kitchen. The goal is simple. Make calcium a daily, consistent part of your diet, rather than something you think about occasionally. Your bones are living tissue that are constantly being broken down and rebuilt. Every day that they receive what they need is a day they get stronger and more resilient.
Now, calcium and protein are powerful on their own, but there's a third piece of this puzzle that ties everything together. And without it, the other two simply cannot do their jobs as effectively as they should. That piece is vitamin D. And when it comes to fall prevention specifically, vitamin D may be the single most researched and most consistently proven nutritional factor of all. We touched on vitamin D in terms of bone health a moment ago, but I want to go deeper here because the muscle connection is something that genuinely surprises most people. Vitamin D receptors exist directly inside your muscle tissue, particularly in the large, powerful muscles of your thighs and hips that you depend on most for standing, walking, and recovering your balance when it's challenged. When vitamin D levels are insufficient, those muscles don't contract as quickly, don't generate as much force, and fatigue much faster than they should. Studies have shown that seniors with low vitamin D levels have measurably slower reaction times and significantly reduced leg strength compared to those with healthy levels, and both of those factors are directly tied to fall risk. The challenge, as we've discussed before, is that our skin becomes far less efficient at producing vitamin D from sunlight as we age, and many seniors simply don't spend enough time outdoors to compensate. That's why food sources become so important. Fatty fish, salmon, mackerel, sardines, and trout are the most potent dietary sources of vitamin D available. Egg yolks provide a smaller but meaningful contribution, and fortified foods, milk, orange juice, and certain cereals help fill the gap for those who don't eat fish regularly. If you've already been watching this channel for a while, you know we've dedicated an entire video to vitamin D and leg weakness, and if you haven't seen it yet, it's absolutely worth watching after this one. For now, the key takeaway is this. If you're eating your protein and your calcium, but still feeling unsteady on your feet, low vitamin D could be the missing piece. It's worth asking your doctor for a simple blood test to know exactly where your levels stand.
Here's a food category that almost never gets mentioned in conversations about fall prevention, and yet the research behind it is remarkably compelling. I'm talking about magnesium-rich foods. And if you've never thought about magnesium in connection with your balance and stability, what I'm about to share might genuinely change the way you think about your daily diet. Magnesium is involved in over 300 biochemical processes in the human body. But for our purposes today, the most important ones are these. Magnesium governs muscle contraction and relaxation. It supports nerve signal transmission throughout the entire body, and it plays a critical role in maintaining the kind of neuromuscular coordination that keeps you balanced and responsive when your footing is challenged. Think of it this way. Your muscles don't just need to be strong, they need to be coordinated. They need to fire at exactly the right moment, in exactly the right sequence, to catch you when you stumble. Magnesium is the mineral that makes that precision possible. And here's the troubling reality for most adults over 60. Magnesium deficiency is extraordinarily common in older populations. Some estimates suggest that up to 70% of American seniors aren't getting enough. This happens because aging kidneys excrete.
Right alongside magnesium, there's another mineral that plays an equally vital but equally overlooked role in keeping you steady on your feet, and that's potassium. Most people associate potassium with bananas and not much else, but potassium is actually one of the most important electrolytes in your body, and its connection to fall prevention is both direct and significant. Here's how it works. Potassium is essential for the electrical signals that travel between your brain, your nerves, and your muscles. Every time you take a step, shift your weight, or instinctively reach for your balance, your nervous system is firing thousands of rapid electrical signals that tell your muscles precisely what to do and when. Potassium is what makes those signals fast, accurate, and reliable. When potassium levels drop, a condition called hypokalemia, which is far more common in seniors than most people realize, those signals become sluggish and imprecise. Muscles feel heavy, cramps become more frequent, and the fine motor coordination that keeps you balanced begins to deteriorate in ways that are subtle but genuinely dangerous. Low potassium is particularly common in seniors who take diuretics for blood pressure or heart conditions, because these medications cause the kidneys to excrete potassium at an accelerated rate. If you're on a diuretic and you've been feeling more unsteady than usual, this is absolutely worth a conversation with your doctor. As for the foods, yes, bananas are a great source of potassium, but they're far from the only one. Sweet potatoes are one of the richest sources available. There's one more category of fall prevention foods that I think is deeply underappreciated, and that's anti-inflammatory foods. Because here's something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. Chronic low-grade inflammation, the kind that quietly simmers in the body for years without obvious symptoms, directly damages the muscles, joints, and nerves that your balance system depends on. It stiffens joints, slows nerve conduction, and accelerates the muscle loss that makes falls more likely. And in adults over 60, this kind of chronic inflammation is almost universal, often driven by diet, stress, sedentary behavior, and the natural changes of aging. The powerful thing about anti-inflammatory foods is that they don't just treat one part of the fall prevention puzzle. They improve the entire picture simultaneously. They protect your muscles, support your joints, reduce nerve damage, and improve circulation to the legs and feet, which is critical for the sensory feedback your body uses to maintain balance. At the top of the anti-inflammatory food list sits fatty fish, salmon, sardines, mackerel, and herring, which are loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, the most potent natural anti-inflammatory compounds we know of. Berries of all kinds, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and blackberries, are extraordinarily rich in anthocyanins and polyphenols that combat inflammation at the cellular level. Extra virgin olive oil, used generously in cooking and on salads, contains a compound called oleocanthal that works in a similar way to anti-inflammatory medications, but gently and without side effects. Turmeric, the golden spice used in curries and golden milk, contains curcumin, which has been shown in dozens of studies to reduce the inflammatory markers associated with joint pain and muscle deterioration. And green tea, sipped daily,
provides a steady stream of catechins that calm systemic inflammation throughout the body. Incorporating these foods doesn't require cooking elaborate meals. A handful of blueberries stirred into your morning yogurt, salmon twice a week for dinner, a drizzle of good olive oil over your vegetables, a warm cup of turmeric-spiced golden milk in the evening instead of a sugary dessert. These are small, pleasurable choices that accumulate into genuinely powerful protection against the inflammation that silently undermines your balance and stability over time.
There's something I want to talk about now that most people would never think to include in a conversation about fall prevention. And yet the research on it is so clear and so consistent that leaving it out would be doing you a real disservice. I'm talking about water. Plain, simple hydration. And before you think this sounds too basic to matter, let me tell you exactly what dehydration does to your body, because it is one of the most underestimated fall risk factors in seniors that exists. Here's what happens when your body doesn't have enough fluid. Your blood volume decreases, which means less oxygen and fewer nutrients are reaching your muscles and your brain in every moment. Your blood pressure can drop suddenly when you stand up, a condition called orthostatic hypotension, causing that familiar dizzy, lightheaded feeling that hits the moment you rise from a chair or step out of bed. Your muscle cells, which are roughly 70% water, begin to function less efficiently, leading to weakness and cramping. And perhaps most critically, your brain, which controls every aspect of your balance, coordination, and spatial awareness, begins to slow down in ways that are subtle but measurable, even with mild dehydration of just 1 to 2% of your body weight. The reason this hits seniors so hard is that the sensation of thirst becomes significantly less reliable as we age. Younger people feel thirsty well before dehydration sets in, but many adults over 60 can be meaningfully dehydrated without feeling thirsty at all. This means you genuinely cannot trust thirst alone as your guide. You need to drink water intentionally and consistently throughout the day, not just when your body reminds you. The general guidance for older adults is to aim for around 6 to 8 cups of fluid per day, and that doesn't have to be plain water exclusively. Herbal teas, diluted fruit juices, broths, and water-rich foods like cucumbers, watermelon, celery, and oranges all contribute to your daily fluid intake. Starting your morning with a full glass of water before your coffee, keeping a water bottle visible on your kitchen counter as a visual reminder, and having a warm cup of herbal tea in the afternoon are all simple habits that can meaningfully improve your hydration without requiring any dramatic effort. This one change alone, simply drinking more water consistently, has been shown to reduce dizziness-related falls in seniors significantly. It costs nothing, requires no prescription, and can begin today. Now here's a vitamin that almost never makes the headlines when people talk about fall prevention. But scientists who study bone health and senior mobility are paying very close attention to it. That vitamin is vitamin K, and specifically a form called vitamin K2, which works in remarkable partnership with both calcium and vitamin D to determine not just how much calcium your body absorbs, but where that calcium actually goes once it's in your bloodstream. Here's why that distinction matters enormously. Many seniors are diligent about taking calcium supplements and eating calcium-rich foods, but if vitamin K2 levels are low, the calcium they're consuming doesn't efficiently reach their bones where it's needed. Instead, it can deposit in soft tissues, including artery walls and even muscle tissue, where it doesn't belong and where it can cause harm. Vitamin K2 acts as a biological traffic director, guiding calcium toward your bones and teeth while keeping it out of the places it shouldn't accumulate. For fall prevention, the implications are significant. Stronger, denser bones mean that if a fall does happen, a fracture is far less likely. And several studies have found that people with higher vitamin K intake not only have better bone density, but also better physical function overall, stronger grip, better leg strength, and improved balance scores. The best dietary sources of vitamin K1, which the body can partially convert to K2, are dark leafy greens. Kale, spinach, Swiss chard, collard greens, and broccoli are all exceptionally rich sources and should be appearing on your plate regularly anyway for their many other benefits.
Vitamin K2 itself is found most abundantly in fermented foods, particularly a Japanese fermented soybean dish called natto, which is extraordinarily rich in K2, but admittedly not everyone's favorite. More accessible sources of K2 include aged hard cheeses like Gouda and Brie, egg yolks, chicken, and grass-fed butter. Including a variety of these foods across your week gives your body the full spectrum of vitamin K it needs to manage calcium properly and keep your bones as resilient as possible.
I want to take a moment now and bring everything we've talked about together into something concrete and practical. Because sometimes hearing a list of beneficial foods is one thing, but visualizing how they actually fit into a real day of eating is what makes the difference between knowing something and actually doing it. So let's walk through what a simple, realistic fall prevention day of eating might look like for someone over 60. You wake up in the morning, and before anything else, you drink a full glass of water. Then breakfast might be 2 scrambled eggs, your protein and your vitamin D, alongside a cup of Greek yogurt topped with a handful of blueberries for their anti-inflammatory power, and a glass of fortified orange juice that gives you both vitamin D and potassium to start the day. That's a genuinely powerful breakfast that takes about 10 minutes to prepare. For lunch, imagine a simple spinach salad, your magnesium and vitamin K, topped with canned salmon or sardines for protein, omega-3s, calcium, and vitamin D all in one, dressed with a generous drizzle of extra virgin olive oil and a squeeze of lemon, maybe a slice of whole grain bread on the side. Again, nothing complicated, nothing expensive, nothing that requires a culinary degree. For dinner, a baked sweet potato, rich in potassium, alongside a piece of grilled chicken or salmon, and a side of sautéed kale or broccoli with garlic, a glass of water or herbal tea to finish, and perhaps a small square of dark chocolate or a handful of almonds as an evening snack, your magnesium, your antioxidants, a moment of genuine pleasure. That's it. That is a day of eating that systematically addresses every single nutritional factor we've discussed today. It's not a diet, it's not a restriction, it's a collection of real, satisfying, enjoyable foods that happen to be building your bones, feeding your muscles, calming your inflammation, and sharpening your inflammation every single day. Before we close today, there's one more piece of this picture I'd be doing you a disservice to skip over, and that's a brief, honest conversation about the foods and habits that actively work against everything we've been building toward. Because as powerful as all these fall prevention foods are, they can only do so much if other parts of your diet are quietly undermining them. Excessive sodium is one of the most common culprits. A diet high in salt causes the body to excrete more calcium through urine, which directly depletes the bone density you're trying to protect. Processed foods, canned soups, deli meats, and fast food are the biggest contributors to sodium overload in the American diet. And for many seniors who rely on convenient, shelf-stable foods, this is a very real and very common issue. Simply cooking more of your own meals, using herbs and spices instead of salt, and choosing low-sodium versions of packaged products when you do use them can make a meaningful difference. Alcohol deserves an honest mention too. Even moderate, regular alcohol consumption impairs balance and coordination, reduces bone density over time, interferes with vitamin D and calcium metabolism, and significantly increases fall risk, particularly at night. This isn't about judgment. It's simply information worth having so you can make choices that align with how you want to feel and function. And finally, ultra-processed foods high in refined sugar and industrial seed oils drive the very chronic inflammation we talked about earlier, the kind that slowly stiffens your joints, damages your nerves, and accelerates the muscle loss that makes falls more likely. Crowding these foods out with the nourishing, whole options we've discussed today is the most effective strategy. Not white-knuckling willpower, but simply making better choices so available and so appealing that the less helpful ones naturally take up less space on your plate and in your life.
Here's what I want you to carry with you long after this video ends. A fall is not destiny. It is not simply what happens when you get older. For the vast majority of people,
fall risk is something that can be meaningfully reduced, and in many cases, dramatically reduced through the consistent daily choices you make about what you eat, how you hydrate, and how you nourish the body that carries you through your life. You now know that protein feeds the muscles that catch you when you stumble, that calcium and vitamin K build the bones that protect you if you fall, that vitamin D activates the muscle fibers that make your legs responsive and strong, that magnesium and potassium keep your nerves sharp and your muscles coordinated, that anti-inflammatory foods protect the joints and nervous system your balance system depends on, and that something as simple as drinking more water every day can reduce dizziness and prevent falls that never needed to happen in the first place. None of this requires perfection. None of it requires a complete overhaul of how you eat. It simply requires a decision made today and renewed each morning to give your body a little more of what it needs to keep you steady, keep you strong, and keep you living with the freedom and confidence you deserve. You have more control over this than you may have been led to believe, and that is genuinely good news. If something in today's video resonated with you, if there's a food you're going to add to your next grocery list, a habit you're going to start tomorrow morning, or a question you're going to bring to your doctor, I would truly love to hear about it. Leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Your experience might be exactly what someone else in this community needs to read today. If this video was helpful to you, please give it a like. It takes just a second, and it helps more seniors find information like this when they need it most. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please do and hit that notification bell, because every week we bring you honest, practical, research-backed content designed specifically for people who are serious about living well, staying strong, and aging on their own terms. Here's to steadier steps, stronger legs, and a life you live fully and fearlessly at every age.